Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is a reading roundup. In these videos I just talk about the books that I've been reading recently in the past couple weeks. And let's just dive straight into it. I read Murder by Milk Bottle by Lynne Truss. This was a reread for me because the fourth book in the series was coming out and I wanted to reread the earlier ones. This is the third book in the Constable Twitton series set in Brighton in 1957, and I am a huge fan of this series. I love the wit and the quirkiness of it. It's a world that, it's not for everybody, and I understand that, but it's a world that I am more than happy to visit. I just love it. It's weird and wonderful. You have to suspend your disbelief, and I am more than happy to do that. And so I don't want to say too much because these books are set very close together in time. All four books in the series are set in 1957 within like 2 or 3 months. So they're really closely set, and I actually really like that. This one is set over the August long weekend, so there are tons of visitors to Brighton and there are a lot of festivals and events going on, and there are three victims are found killed within hours of each other, and they've all been killed with a milk bottle. And so trying to figure out how they're connected and who killed them is kind of the main mystery of this one. And then I read the Marlow Murder Club by Robert Thorogood. Robert Thorogood created the Death in Paradise series on TV, which I love. And then he also wrote 4 books about those characters, which I also really love. This is from 2021. And it is set in England. It's set in Buckinghamshire or Surrey or something like that. And the main character is Judith Potts, and she's 77 years old. She's a widow who lives in a pretty big house that her garden runs up against the Thames, like she has access to the river. And she's fantastic. I loved her. She was such a great character. She sets crosswords for the Times, and she is more than happy with her life, more than happy to be on her own and doing what she wants to do when she wants to do it, basically. But then one evening she's gone for a swim in the river and she hears a gunshot coming from her neighbor's house, and that sets off the train of events in this book, and I was there for it. I loved it. I loved it so much. It was really well written. It had really good characters. It was a really good mystery that I was sort of starting to piece together, but definitely had not figured out the extent of the mystery. I thought it was really good. I loved the characters. We also meet 2 other women, Susie, who is a dog walker, and Bex, who is the wife of the local vicar, and they were great characters as well. The first chapter of this book, I knew that I was gonna love it so much. The first sentence, Mrs. Judith Potts was 77 years old and entirely happy with her life. I loved it. And then I decided at the last minute to do something called the 12 challenge. Hang on, let me confirm that. I heard about it from Ahona at Hamsavihini Vuchu Ostra. And basically you ask 12 friends to recommend a book for you, and you read 1 book per month for the year. So 12 friends, 12 books, 12 months. And it was really fun. She had asked me to recommend a book to her, which is how I found out about it. So I asked her to recommend a book to me, and then I found 11 other fantastic people to recommend books to me, and one of them was Becka from Hicks Picks Books. And she recommended a book, and she actually sent it to me in the mail. So Becka, thank you so much. That was so kind of you. And so this is Agatha Christie, Inspiring Lives by Cathy Cook. And I flew through this book. I loved it. It was so interesting. It's about Agatha Christie, but primarily it's about her work, her books, and I loved the way it was written, and the way that she put it together. At the very beginning, there is a quote from Agatha Christie that says, "If anyone writes about my life in the future, I'd rather they got the facts right." And she's quoted as saying that in the Sunday Times in 1966. So she starts with an introduction of 10 things you might not know about Agatha Christie. I already knew those, but I'm a massive fan. And then she had chapters on her mysteries and how to solve them, the real Agatha Christie, Poirot versus Marple, key works, family, and lifeline. And I just loved it. So there was a few things that you can see that I marked that I thought were really interesting. So they talk about her plays. Agatha Christie wrote a good amount of plays, actually. One of Agatha Christie's plays, Verdict, was booed on its first night in 1956 because the assistant stage manager dropped the curtain down on the final scene about 40 seconds too soon. This prevented the surprise re-entrance of a key character and 2 vital lines of dialogue, and so completely changed the ending of the play. Not realizing that they had missed the ending, the audience and critics were very disappointed, saying the last scene rang false and fell flat. The next night, with the right ending, the company took 6 curtain calls. Isn't that interesting? 40 seconds. So interesting. Okay, and then she has a section here on how to solve Agatha Christie's mysteries if you're reading a mystery and you want to try and solve it yourself. So, are Agatha Christie's detective stories really solvable? It is certainly dangerous to expect any sort of equation to work consistently, but there are some things that can be borne in mind when reading her novels. Martin Fido, amongst others, identified a number of rules that are helpful in solving her mysteries. Here are my top 10. And I'm not going to read through all of them, but just to give you an idea. Number 1, if a person in the book has an excellent motive but has been ruled out as a suspect because of lack of means or opportunity, suspect that person. Number 2, a witness will on occasion reveal the name of the murderer or a vital clue early on in the novel, only for the witness to be discounted as reliable and so no one listens to them. Number 3, ignore those questions that the detective says are important. They are usually designed to mislead you into focusing on minor details that aren't crucial or relevant. Number 4, look out for throwaway details that lead up to the crime. And it's interesting, after reading so many Agatha Christie's, these are all very true. Like, they're spot on. 5, always be on the lookout for disguise and impersonation. Number 6, this one's interesting. Agatha Christie quite often uses the word interesting before a clue that is of little relevance, but then omits the word when writing about a clue which is vital to the plot. Now, this is one that I hadn't picked up on, so I'm going to be looking for that as I continue reading through her books. So yeah, so I thought those were really interesting. A book was published in 1973 that she participated in, and it was called The Michael Parkinson's Confessions Album. And it contained the confessions, likes and dislikes of famous people. And so some of Agatha Christie's responses in it I thought were really interesting. And so this is 3 years before she died. My ideal value, courage. My idea of beauty in nature, a bank of primroses in spring. My favorite study, astrology and aspects of history. My favorite flower, lily of the valley. My favorite qualities in men, integrity and good manners. My favorite qualities in women, loving and merry. My favorite quotation, life is a pure flame and we live by an invisible sun within us, Sir Thomas Browne. My motto, the business of life is to go forwards. Samuel Johnson. I just thought that was interesting. I obviously missed out a whole bunch, but I thought that was interesting to hear from her. There's a section about her grandson, Matthew Pritchard, and he is quoted as saying that he saw her as intensely shy, a very private kind of person who listened more than she talked, who saw more than she was seen. And I thought that was such an interesting quote, especially because we hear from other people who knew her well who say very similar things about her being shy, about her being very private, and about her being a great observer. And so I think that's interesting, because that part about being a great observer, I think, is one of the reasons why she was such a great mystery writer. And then about The Mousetrap that she wrote. So this is a play that premiered in 1952, I think. Yes, 1952. And it is the longest running play ever. The only reason it's not running anymore is because of the pandemic, but it had been running continually since 1952, which honestly is amazing. When the play became the longest running play in the history of British theatre with its 2,239th performance, yet another spectacular party was held at the Savoy. Peter Saunders asked Agatha to arrive early so as to avoid the press. However, as she approached the banquet hall, a porter who did not recognize the guest of honor told her that it would be another 20 minutes before anyone was allowed in. In her autobiography, she remembers the frustration at her own shyness, the fact that she couldn't explain who she was and just turned and walked away. She said that she felt like a fraud, and that even thinking back on the day all those years ago, she still felt like she spent her life pretending to be an author. Isn't that interesting? And then the film rights for The Mousetrap were sold to Romulus Films and producer Victor Saville in 1956, on the condition that any film must not appear until 6 months after the end of the stage run. Though Peter Saunders, he's the director of the play, asked twice if he could buy back the rights, Mr. Saville refused to sell, saying he was prepared to sit back and wait, as he believed he had a gold mine. Unfortunately, Victor Saville was outrun by the play, and he died in 1979. Isn't that so interesting? So thank you so much, Becka. My first recommended book for 2022 was a huge winner. So Inspiring Lives, Agatha Christie by Cathy Cook. And then Catherine from Taking Tea with Catherine set a reading challenge for January, and that was to read about books in January. And so one of the ones that I read for that was The Haunted Bookshop by Christopher Morley. This is a mystery that was written in 1919. And this was so much fun. This was a reread for me, but it's been like more than 20 years since I read this book. And I remember really liking it. I loved my reread of it. It's set in Brooklyn, obviously in 1919. And the main character is Roger Mifflin, and he owns the Haunted Bookshop with his wife. I loved the dedication at the beginning to the booksellers. Be pleased to know, most worthy, that this little book is dedicated to you in affection and respect. The faults of the composition are plain to you all. I began merely in the hopes of saying something further of the adventures of Roger Mifflin, whose exploits in Parnassus on Wheels, which is the first book, some of you have been kind enough to applaud. But then came Miss Titania Chapman, and my young advertising man fell in love with her, and the two of them rather ran away with the tale. There is so much book love in this book that it's great. Like they talk about books and authors so much, and I loved it. There was a whole thing about Dickens that was great fun. And then I just loved the opening paragraph of the book. If you are ever in Brooklyn, that borough of superb sunsets and magnificent vistas, of husband-propelled baby carriages, it is to be hoped you may chance upon a quiet by-street where there is a very remarkable bookshop. So good. So the insurance salesman guy, or no, the advertising salesman guy comes into the bookshop and he sees this sign: Parnassus at home, R&H Mifflin, book lovers welcome, this shop is haunted. And then further into the shop he sees another sign that says, this shop is haunted by the ghosts of all great literature in hosts. We sell no fakes or trashes. Lovers of books are welcome here. No clerks will babble in your ear. Please smoke, but don't drop the ashes. Browse as long as you like. Prices of all books plainly marked. If you want to ask questions, you'll find the proprietor where the tobacco smoke is thickest. We pay cash for books. We have what you want, though you may not know you want it. Malnutrition of the reading faculty is a serious thing. Let us prescribe for you. By R&H Mifflin, proprietors. So if you like a mystery from that, an early mystery like that, give this one a shot. If you like books about books and books about bookshops, definitely give this one a shot because there is so much book love in this book. It's fantastic. Okay, and then I read the fourth one in the Constable Twitten series, set in Brighton in 1957, and this is Psycho by the Sea. I was so excited that this book was coming out, and I loved it. I just, like I said earlier, I just love this world. I am more than happy to spend time in this world, and I don't want to talk too much about this book because it felt to me like the culmination of all that had happened in the previous 3 books. I'm also slightly worried that this is the last one in the series that she's gonna write, and I really hope not because I love this world. Constable Twitten is hilarious. He is very young. He is very brand new to the police, and so figuring out how to be a cop with his, like, he honestly is very, very clever. He is very smart, but he is book smart and not people smart. And so I love figuring stuff out with him, and I'm always rooting for him. And so I really do hope that this one isn't the last in the series because I just love it. I just love all the characters. And there's a review that says, a farce that gathers hilarious pace with every page. This is a crime fiction turned on its head. And it's so right. It is a farce, and I am there for all of it. And then I also read for Read About Books in January, I'd Rather Be Reading: The Delights and Dilemmas of the Reading Life by Anne Bogel. I heard about this from Berna at Berna's Bookish Adventures. It's a slim little volume I got out from the library and I read in one sitting essentially. And it's little essays about the reading life, and I loved it. I completely related to what the author was saying. I enjoyed reading about someone else who loves books and reading as much as I do. And I really enjoyed this little volume. So if you're a book lover, I highly recommend this little volume. So there you have it. These are the books that I have been reading. Oh, I forgot. There's one other book I had to take to the library, so I've got a little clip of it. I'll put it in here. Murder at Wedgefield Manor by Erica Ruth Neubauer is the second in her Jane Wonderly series. This is a historical mystery series. The first book was set in Egypt, and that's what appealed to me when I saw what it was about. Jane is an American who is on a trip with her aunt, and they are in Egypt. And in the first book, Jane is suspected by the police of the murder at the hotel they're staying at, and so therefore she gets involved in order to clear her name. This is the second in the series, and they are now in England, and they're staying at this big house. And I have to admit, I didn't really like this second book in the series. have a love-hate relationship with amateur sleuth mysteries. I do like them when they're done really well, but I found in this book she was just annoying as an amateur sleuth. She's there and she's taking flying lessons, which that part was fun. And then a man who is staying at the house gets killed. And she has absolutely no real good reason to kind of inveigle her way into the investigation, and yet she does so, and she's pretty pushy about it. So I didn't really like that. There was even one point where she's in the interview room interviewing a suspect while the police are there. Like, how did she even do that? Why did the police even let her do that? So yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that, of like how she got herself involved in investigating the mystery. And then the other thing was, I didn't feel like the mystery was all that great in this one. I figured it out right away, and yeah, so anyway, this one, I wasn't as much of a fan. I still do like the first one in the series, and so I might pick up the third one just to see, but yeah, I don't know, I have some issues with her amateur sleuthing. Okay, now I can say these are the books that I've been reading. Let's chat in the comment section down below. Have you read any of these books? I would love to chat with you, and I will see you for another video soon.